Hey, what's up? So this is more or less going to be a two-part video. First, I'm going to cover game theory for like info coaching, consulting, personal branding, creators. Like this is all within the same spectrum of the game that we're actually playing. Like we're all trying to make money, we're all trying to grow brand, we're all trying to get better at marketing, get better at sales and figure out like the best funnels and stuff like that. And so understanding the game that we're all trying to play in and the path of the winners and what separates the winners from the losers and why they're actually playing in a different game than the rest of us. And then the second part, I'm going to go over some of the acquisition systems that I'm going to be using for my content, that I'm actively using for my content. What defines a personal brand, a good personal brand? What type of content do we need in the top, middle, and bottom of funnel of content? And some of the acquisition systems that we use to actively get clients. And so this is what I'm going to be covering in today's video. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Trevor King, founder of 7 Point. I took an offer from zero to $135,000 in 3.5 months. And, we've contracted $48,000 in a single month, and our clients have done very, very well. And we focus on this type of stuff for our clients. So when we think about game theory, the game is crowded because it's easy to copy everyone. Like everyone has access to the same exact tools as you and me. If everyone has access to the same AI, editing apps, content hooks, frameworks, funnel templates, high ticket playbook, when everyone has access to these things, the advantage shifts away from these tactics and towards the actual positioning, your reputation, the commitment, and the structure. And so this is consistent with standard game theoretic ideas around Nash equilibrium, repeated game signaling, and mechanism design. So the core question here is, how do I change the game so I'm not competing on the same terms as everyone else? And so the first thing that we have to understand is avoiding crowded strategies. And this might seem intuitively like understandable because the first implication is that the obvious strategy gets competed away. This is sort of basic economics. Like when there's a big market that has a lot of opportunity, a lot of people go to that attractive move because the payoff is larger, the less participants there are in that market. And so the more the market becomes crowded, the payoff decreases and it's essentially a race to the bottom. And so this is applied to your content style, the same niche promises. Everyone has the same stuff. It's like the CTA structure. Everyone's doing the same AI assisted deliverables, the same acquisition playbook. And so this means that the market converges on the same niche, the same content style, same offer, same funnel, positioning language. Everyone is interchangeable. No one is unique here. Game theory would suggest that the winning move is not to copy the visible winner more precisely. It's essentially to shift to a less crowded angle where competition is lower and payoff potential is higher, where demand still exists. And so this could mean that you target a more narrower market, or maybe you make a more specific argument, or you solve a more specific painful problem, or you're packaging the offer in a way that reduces direct comparability. If you think about it, like the more difficult something is, the less people there are going to be in that market. Like if I toss a piece of bread in front of a bunch of seagulls, obviously all the seagulls are going to go to the easy and they're going to try to fight for that piece of bread. But imagine there's a trash with a bunch of pieces of bread in there and there's one seagull that figures it out. And he goes in there, and it's obviously a little bit more difficult to get to that bread, but the payoff is larger because there's less people, and it's more difficult for that seagull to get the bread, just as a silly example. Which leads me to trust. Like the strongest online businesses are built so that every single interaction increases the value of the next one. It's a compounding effect where everything I do is going to make my next move stronger. That's where a competitive advantage is. And so we have this trust compounding system. It's, you're posting reels, YouTube, carousels, stories, like all this top of funnel content stuff. And whether it's for your offer or positioning yourself as an expert, this sparks profile interest. You're getting the reach, you're getting the attention, you have the distribution. And so the stories and the trust assets become the thing that people are looking at when they land on your profile. And so when you position your stories and your trust assets to allow for deeper belief in building trust quicker, they then become a client because they understand that you're an expert and you're very skilled at what you do. Once they become a client, they have a strong client experience. As long as your fulfillment model, your onboarding reinforces that they made a good decision working with you, and then the fulfillment and the results speak for the outcome that you promised on the sales call. They're getting results, which gives you better trust assets, like a bigger artillery, a war chest of proof and results that you can showcase on your reels, your carousels, your stories, and it ultimately makes your brand stronger. Think about the biggest brands, right? Like they have a ton of proof. They have a ton of testimonials. They have a ton of pieces of content that showcase they're an expert in what they do and they have done this for other people. The more proof you have, the more trust you're going to accumulate, and quicker you're going to accumulate at a faster rate. This does a compounding effect, because from here, now you have more, right? And then you're getting more interest, and it's converting quicker, and they're building belief and trust quicker, and they're becoming clients quicker. So not only does it reduce your sales cycle, but it increases the actual breadth of what your offer is and what your skill is. Every single experience feeds proof, referrals, future conversions, and your trust assets, and every move makes it stronger. And so the businesses that win are the ones where every single touch point strengthens the next, rather than you're restarting from zero every single time. But here's the caveat. If everyone can make decent looking content, then content quality alone stops being the edge. It's now signal quality. Like, what is the actual signal, and what are you trying to communicate within that piece of content? If you're making like polished, informative, thought-provoking, like none of this stuff even really matters that much. It's really all about changing the audience belief about the underlying quality or suitability for your offer, and that you're a skillful person to be able to get them to that result as fast as possible. And so you do this by demonstrating judgment. You reveal something non-obvious. You're framing the market better than your competitors, and they have to say that, like, oh, this person understands the problem at a deeper level than the competitors. And so belief shaping becomes more valuable than just like simple information sharing. And so with that being said, it's like, okay, once we shape the belief, like, how do we actually get an advantage, right? Like, so the winners do not just compete harder inside the default market structure. And I'll get into this a little bit deeper. They redesign the conditions under which they compete. Effectively, what you're doing here is you're trying to find an advantage, a unique advantage within every single pillar of an online business, whether it's your pricing, your offer structure, the funnel, the delivery, the sales process, the position. Don't just focus on one unique aspect to shift yourself to be different from the rest of the market. Like, you have to look at all of these. The key here is to be magenta in a red ocean. Like, you want to be able to stand out amongst competitors to where you're more recognizable and they remember you at a deeper level. And so you want to be easier to say yes to and harder to compare yourself against other people and other alternatives. Instead of using like generic sales calls, you use like diagnostic sessions, or you're building a better onboarding path, or you have a really unique way of pre-selling through your content, or you narrow the buyer journey so the right people arrive more convinced. And so game theory would suggest that the strongest players do not simply just optimize inside of the market. They design an environment where their advantage compounds and competitors are forced to play on less favorable terms. It's because your overall structure is better. Like, everything that you have done and focused on, even for a longer duration of time than them, like, you're going to position yourself way above the market. It's like, imagine I look at a business coaching offer right now. Like, all of them are doing the same exact thing. Like, they look at your content, they help you run your ads, they help you structure your business, they help with the onboarding process, they help with, like, they do all of this like super generic stuff. And so they become interchangeable, and no one really has a unique way of approaching everything. And so ultimately the decision from there becomes about trust and reputation. And with that being said, we have to control the downside. So winning isn't just about maximizing the upside. It's also about completely avoiding strategies that could wipe you out, trap you, or force bad decisions later. And so in practice, this essentially means that we're trying to avoid models where one platform controls your distribution, or one offer controls all your revenue, or like one acquisition channel controls your pipeline. So like, if we look at this example, if I was to cut off one of these things, the whole business would collapse. Like, imagine Instagram blocked my account and that was my sole traffic source. Like, I would have to start from zero. Or if I was only posting organic content, then algorithm changed and I no longer got the reach that I once did. One dependency, you are super fragile, but if you have multiple paths, you are very resilient. Like, if I had, multiple platforms to get clients, like YouTube, Instagram, email, or had multiple acquisition paths like organic, paid, outreach. Like, if one of these failed, like, I would be completely fine. Like, the business is completely okay because you don't have all your eggs in one basket. Like, we have to think about it like an investment portfolio. We have Apple, Microsoft, Nvidia, like the tech sector, gas, and then banking, and then healthcare, right? And so like, if one of these industries or sectors is down, but the other allocations to the portfolio are up, it essentially normalizes, and you're still net positive obviously depends on the volatility and the price move, but the other ones are essentially a hedge against the downside. And so if removing one variable breaks the model, it was never actually strong to begin with. And so why is any of this important? Like, we have to understand that the things that make you different and the advantage that you seek is in differentiation, but also being strategic in what you're actually focusing on. Obviously, you should be focusing on content. And so this is the sort of the second part of the video here where I go over the content playbook that I'm running. So like your goal should be to build a personal brand that communicates trust and positions you as an expert so that you can convert a paying customer. And so you got to do this through long form, short form, and stories. Technically 3 different platforms, but 2 in the content example where you're posting on YouTube and Instagram, long form, short form, and stories. And then you use short form and story ads to funnel to your profile. And a prospect could get a ton of iterations of different content ideas that you've posted. And something you have to understand is that the profile or brand is not the offer. It is just the reason someone actually trusts the offer, because it goes back to this example here. Like, you're communicating that you're an expert, and you're using those proof assets to build your brand even stronger over time. And so you do this through attracting, educating, and converting your audience in these types of content formats. You have to be posting at least 1 reel a day minimum, right? Like, it's a single idea. It just makes the right person stop and question themselves. You're not trying to explain here. And so you do this through multiple different content types. Like, you could do talking head or mural board or lifestyle B-roll with text over it, or just a text hook and, voiceover, or like a skit or contrarian. Like, there's so many different content types. Really just focusing on like a few of these to attract a broad array of people so that they click on your profile and understand what you do quickly. Once they click on your profile, you need to educate them. So they're likely going to look at your stories, your highlights, and then your cover photos, and also like your reels and stuff. So you have to be posting stories and carousels. So every story watched is essentially plus 1% buying power. Like, you have 100 stories, they're essentially sold. Like, if they see 100 stories, you have effectively communicated the right things, hopefully, within your stories, showcasing proof, showcasing that you're an expert, and building trust over time. And then you have the carousels, which is like good for saves and shares. Instagram is pushing carousels pretty hard right now. And so you could do like framework breakdowns or like explanations, number lists, like minimal text on the first slide, which forces the scroll. And then you're also using YouTube 2 times per week to educate people. Like, this is exactly what I'm doing with this video here, is I'm trying to educate you. And what this does is the heavy trust lifting. Like, the more time someone has in front of you, they're more likely they're going to become a buyer. And so short form creates curiosity. YouTube converts the curiosity into like genuine like trust. And so you can split your content into the same sort of 3 principles. It's the attract, educate, and convert. Most of the time, you're going to just be educating and converting. Most of the attraction is going to be done through Instagram and, maybe some of the long form that gets pushed. But again, most of the time it's going to be through Instagram, your short form and stories. And so when you educate, you should be introducing your mechanism, right? Like how the actual system works. And then converting is the social proof, your client results, and case studies. And lastly, we have the convert type of content. Like for Instagram specifically, we're using ManyChat automations, triggers a DM flow, routes to application or calendar. What you're trying to do here is you're finding the current state, finding their desired state, and you're positioning a call as the bridge. You send them to the application if they're qualified, or straight to the calendar if they're very qualified. And so like it would look like this: VSL or YouTube video application form, qualified lead routed to calendar, pre-call email sequence, SMS sequence, sales call, close. Like it's very straightforward. Like you definitely need, in my opinion, you would need some sort of VSL YouTube video. Like the VSL and the YouTube video, that like this is why so many people just focus on VSLs like as their entire business model of like creating high converting VSLs, is because it's so important to get in front of someone and communicate your proof, your value, and how you actually get results for your clients and what the offer even is. And a quick win acquisition system that we have is we're using Appify and Growman, and we're doing a lot of Loom DM outreaches because it converts very, very well. And we do this through Instagram DMs and email. Essentially what we're doing is we're testing different variants of openers, and we're tracking the reply rates across variants, and we're iterating over the best possible variants, split testing those variants. And we do that until we have a really solid, like we just forever do that. Like we don't even stop doing that. Like we literally just continue doing that. It's like if they reply, if they don't, you follow up. It's sort of standard, appointment setting frameworks here. It's the same thing for email really. But yeah, hope you guys enjoyed. Till next time.